Hey Harry Potter fans, Peter Kenneth here. Welcome back to the Potter Collector channel, where we are a community of collectors. Today we are talking about my friends here who are some of the rarest Harry Potter items ever produced. These are the Warner Brothers store Harry Potter Maquettes. Now, the Warner Brothers store used to be a store kind of like the Disney store that just shut down. You would find them in malls and it would sell Warner Brothers related merchandise. The Warner Brothers store shut down in 2001, right around the time these started being produced. What makes them so rare? The Warner Brothers store planned to produce 2,500 of each of these maquettes or statues. But because they closed down soon after they started production, they never made it to that 2,500 number. And poor Hermione Granger here was never produced at all. This is a prototype and we're gonna talk about her in a second, but let's take a look at the main 5 that were produced. Mr. Harry Potter is the least rare of all 5. It is estimated that 500 of these maquettes were produced before the store shut down. And that estimate is based off of the number on the bottom of the stand. Each one of these maquettes were not only hand painted, we'll talk about that in a second, but they were all hand numbered out of 2,500. So for example, this Harry Potter is number 28, a nice low number, but we have seen them numbered in the high 400s. 500 sounds like a lot. 500 is not a lot of items. Even the Harry Potter maquette has become really scarce the last few years. Let's take a closer look at this guy. Harry Potter, as well as the other maquettes that you'll see today, were designed by Fred Bode, and all 5 of the original maquettes that I have in my collection are signed by Mr. Fred Bode, which is pretty cool. You may be saying to yourself, Peter, these don't look like the actors at all. That does not look like Daniel Radcliffe. This is what we call pre-movie merchandise. Warner Brothers purchased the rights to the Harry Potter movies and Harry Potter licensing and started to produce Harry Potter merchandise before any of the actors were even cast. So they based their designs off of the books. So this is more book accurate merchandise and again, pre-movie merchandise. So that's why we call it pre-movie. Harry is standing with his Nimbus 2000 and it's funny because the broomstick that he's holding is just a basic broomstick that you would find in your cupboard under the stairs. Engraved into the handle it says Nimbus 2000. He has wire glasses on. His jet black hair is very untidy. I love that he has green eyes because Harry Potter has green eyes in the books. He's wearing a striped polo shirt underneath his Hogwarts robes, some blue pants, his trainers, and what's cool about the back of the robe is it has a star lining in it, and you can see that lining right there. He is standing on some cobblestones. We can only guess that these are Hogwarts castle floors, and then the base itself is black, but on the very front, in gold and black, it says Harry Potter. Now, each one of these maquettes feature this name tag on the front, and then on the back we have the Harry Potter logo. Really beautiful, detailed, original pre-movie merchandise, and this isn't even the rarest of the 6 that we're gonna look at today. On the bottom of the stand it says Harry Potter maquette, Warner Brothers logo. It tells you this is number 28 out of 2,500 and produced in 2000. This Harry Potter maquette stands 11 inches tall. Before we take a look at the other ones, I wanted to show you the boxes that these came in. They were simple black boxes with silver foiling showing the Warner Brothers gallery. Harry Potter maquette. The Dumbledore maquette would say Dumbledore maquette. Trademark information, and then the bottom, which has a price tag, and Harry's original price was $125. Let's move on to Harry Potter's best friend, Ronald Weasley, who is holding Scabbers. He is also standing on the Hogwarts floors, those cobblestones. On the front of his stand, it says Ron Weasley. He has some really big white trainers on. You can see the star pattern on the inside of his robe as well. His hair is in a bowl cut shape, so it literally looks like Mrs. Weasley was running out of time, and she's like, Ronald, I must give you a haircut. So she stuck a bowl in his head and just took some scissors and snip, snip, snip. It's not very even. It looks like a DIY haircut done by a mom who has absolutely no time to cut someone's hair. There's a certain charm to this maquette, really just the haircut itself, because it makes it feel very homey and almost family values. If you look closely at Ronald's face, he has some freckles. Just incredible detail on these things. Scabbers has some stars on his body. His tail is resting over Ron's sleeve, and his expression is very Ron Weasley. The original price for Ron was $25 $5 more than Harry, $150. This particular maquette is number 13 out of 2,500. For Ron, it's estimated that only 50 were ever produced before the store shut down. And Ron Weasley stands 12 inches tall. Let's skip Hermione for now and take a look at Professor Snape. All right, we have Severus Snape right here. It says so on the name tag, the gold name tag, Severus Snape, the potions master himself, the head of Slytherin House, wearing all black, jet black hair. He's also wearing black nail polish. His robes are flowing. He looks very bat-like, which is how he's described in the books. Again, remember, these are pre-movie merchandise items, so all the inspiration is coming directly from the books themselves, which is the thing that I absolutely love about pre-movie merchandise. He has quite the grimace on his face. He's not very thrilled to be teaching Harry Potter in his potions class. Now, on the other two maquettes, we saw their feet. Snape, you can't see his feet because Snape doesn't walk. He glides down the hallways of Hogwarts. But I do love that about this maquette because you don't see any distractions. All you see are his black, simple yet elaborate robes. His inner robe is glossy or shiny, and the outer robe has a more matte textured finish. He is also standing on those same cobblestones. All of the maquettes that you see will have that cobblestone base, with the rest of the base being black. And this particular Professor Snape is number 4 out of 2,500. So a really nice low number. The lower the number, the better. A lot of times collectors prefer to have a lower number, and that can actually raise the value of the particular piece. He stands 13.5 inches tall, and his original price was the same as Ron, $150. Now, prior to the store shutting down, it's estimated that around 60 to 70 of these were produced. Again, based on the numbers that we've seen in collections or sold in the past. And I've mentioned that we haven't seen a lot of Harry Potters on eBay or for sale anywhere. You rarely ever see Ron, Snape, Dumbledore, especially Hagrid. Wait until you hear how rare Hagrid is and why. This one has a very special place in my heart. Dumbledore is my favorite character, and this is book Dumbledore, not movie Dumbledore. It's not Richard Harris, Michael Gambon. This is the Dumbledore that we know from the books. So this particular maquette has a very special place in my heart. His original price was $150, just like Snape and Ron. He stands at 14.5 inches, so he's one of the taller maquettes. He is elaborate. Look at this piece. Beautiful flowing purple robes. His buckled boots are peeking out from his underrobe. He has a green rope tied around his waist and a bag that I can only guess is filled with flue powder or potentially his Deluminator. I'm not quite sure, but because he's Dumbledore, you know there's something special in that bag. Look at his beard. Look at the back of his head. That hair is just flowing so beautifully. And if you take a look at the side profile, his outer robe has a hood. The hair is flowing over the hood. Like, that's just a small detail that adds a lot of effect. His hair isn't just incorporated into the back. It actually flows over the hood of the robe on this maquette. Just fantastic detail on these pieces. Again, all of them were hand painted. Dumbledore has his half moon spectacles. They are wire spectacles. He's got a great stance too. It's like he's got something to say that's very wise. So just listen up. Harry, I'm going to help you with the particular issue you're dealing with right now. Thank you, Dumbledore, for always being there for us. This Dumbledore is number 15 out of 2,500, with only 60 to 70 produced, just like Snape. We've come to the big man himself, Rubeus Hagrid, keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts. Of course, you already know about Hogwarts. Sorry, no. Blimey, Harry, didn't you ever wonder where your parents learned it all? Learn what? You're a wizard, Harry. Oh, guys, the excitement, the joy when this guy entered my collection. It took years of searching and waiting. I had the other 4 in my collection, minus Hermione. We'll talk about Hermione in a second. But we were waiting for Hagrid, and Hagrid arrived. Now, why is Hagrid so rare? There were an estimated 50 produced prior to the closing of the Warner Brothers studio store, but about half of those all arrived broken. So we can estimate about 25 were ever sold. Take a listen to this. Mr. Hagrid is hollow on the inside. His stand is extremely heavy. That's solid. But the walls of this maquette are very, very thin. In addition to about half of them being damaged on their way to the stores themselves, because he's so fragile, collectors have reported that they have purchased Hagrid secondhand only to open up the box and see him in a million pieces. I can't even begin to imagine what that feels like, but I did have some experience with a broken Hagrid in the past. This is my second Hagrid. My first Hagrid arrived, and because the base is so heavy, he arrived completely detached from the base. Thankfully, nothing else was damaged, so I was able to glue him back together, do some paint matching, and touch up the cracks and seams, and he looked as good as new. So I got lucky with my first Hagrid. I have since sold him to a friend and purchased this new one. I'll show you why I purchased this new one in a second. But as far as rarity goes, there are roughly less than 25 of this guy in existence. He does come up for sale, but it is rare. He was the most expensive of the Maquettes at $175. He stands at a whopping 16 inches tall, and he is #1 out of 2,500. Number 1 is here in the Potter Collector Library in the Potter Collector Collection. All right, let's take a look at this incredible statue. First of all, his hair. I mean, his hair is out of control, just like Hagrid. Huge beard, huge thick hair going down the back of him. He's standing on that same base as the others. His boots are the size of dolphins. His hands the size of trash cans. These are all descriptions found in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's or Sorcerer's Stone. He's the keeper of the keys and the grounds at Hogwarts, so he has some dangling keys from his belt. Love the colors of these things. Very bright, very colorful, represent the characters so well that we know, again, from the books. Green pants, a tan shirt, brown overcoat with giant pockets on either side. You can see on the back where he bent over and ripped the seam of his coat and then stitched it back together. There's a slit on the bottom of his coat there. You look at this piece and you instantly think Rubeus Hagrid, and that is what it says on the bottom of his stand. So a very rare piece and a very stunning piece, a very massive piece. Miss Hermione Jean Granger. She was never produced. The Warner Brothers Studio store closed down before they started to produce the Hermione Maquettes. It seems odd that they would produce Dumbledore and Snape and Hagrid prior to Hermione, but alas, that is what they decided to do. Now we can only guess how much she would have sold for. It probably would have been $150 just like Ron. She stands at 11.5 inches, and she is solid gray because she is a prototype of what the Hermione Maquette would have looked like. We see that she's standing on those same cobblestone floors. She has her trainers, her robes. We can also see the star pattern on the inside of her robes. She's holding 3 books: A History of Magic, a titleless book, and Magical Theory. She has a very Hermione look and expression on her face, and she is ready to go to class and ready to learn. Now, this particular prototype is the first version of the prototypes that were produced. So you're noticing that there's no nameplate on the front and no Harry Potter logo on the back. We see that on the second version of the prototype or sample piece. So this is thought to be the very first version. Minor changes were made. They created a secondary version. Then they would have created a prototype colored version and moved on to produce the final product. We have seen a colored prototype in the past. One sold years ago on eBay, and it was said that it was rescued from Warner Brothers before they destroyed it. So at least one of the finished colored Hermiones exists. And if you're watching and you own it, please send me an email, send me a message. I would love to make an offer, potentially add it to the Potter Collector Collection. If you know who has it, same thing, let me know. I may be interested. For me, I would never paint the prototype. I think the prototype should stay a prototype, and I'm happy with having just the prototype and not the finished piece, but I would love to have the final colored Hermione as well. As far as how many of the prototypes were made, I've seen a couple in the past for sale, and by a couple I mean 2 or 3, so no one really knows how many of the prototypes were actually produced. We've also seen prototypes of the other ones as well, and prototypes of different maquettes that they were going to release in the future. But this is the big one that everyone wants, justice for Hermione, because Hermione Granger should have been produced. When it comes to the value of these pieces, some of them it's kind of unknown. We have seen Dumbledore sell in the $1,500 range, Snape in the $1,000 range, Ron also in the $1,000 range. Harry used to sell for about $100, but when you find one available, he's now selling for in the $5,000 to $1,000 range. Hagrid, it's unknown. My estimate is that he would sell in the $2,500 plus range. So as a set of just the 5, not including Hermione, if you find a set for sale, expect to pay somewhere in the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 range. And if you find a set for less, grab it quick. As far as the prototypes go, they are usually less valuable than the finished items, which is interesting because they are significantly rarer than the finished items, but rarity doesn't always mean value. I'm going to give a Dumbledore stance. Always remember that. Rarity does not always mean value. For the prototypes, we've seen Hermione sell for $500 to $1,500, and we've also seen other prototype future pieces they were going to produce for sale on places like eBay that have been listed for years and priced thousands of dollars more than they're worth. So remember that, just because something's rare doesn't mean it's valuable. It's only worth as much as someone is willing to pay for it. When it comes to items in my collection, these are without a doubt my favorite merchandise pieces. The fact that they are pre-movie, these are book characters straight out of the books themselves with inspiration taken from the text. If you guys have these in your collection, let me know in the comments down below. And if you don't have them, let me know which of these is your favorite. For me, it's a pretty close tie between Hagrid and Dumbledore, but I think Hagrid is always going to win just because of his sheer size and incredible detail. If you have any questions about Harry Potter or collecting, feel free to leave a comment down below. You can also join the Potter Collector community on Instagram at The Potter Collector or on Twitter at Potter Collector. Now it's time to like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, keep collecting. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, welcome. You can subscribe right up here. You can also look at some previously posted content down here. If you have any questions about Harry Potter books or collecting, please feel free to contact me. I'm always happy to help. But for now, I must go. See you next time.
Whoa, where'd he go?